continued our theme for the month of April, which was April showers, if you remember. And we've been speaking a whole month on showers of blessings. So those blessings that pour down upon us, those blessings that pour forth from us, so Spirit's blessings, the blessings that we ourselves extend to those that we meet. So it's all about blessings. And so today's title is From the Basement to the Penthouse. And you might think, what do basements and penthouse have to do with blessings? But you will see during the talk how they work together so perfectly. So perfectly. And we're going to be thinking of basements and penthouses not as places, as buildings, but as a place in our minds. A place in our minds. The basement and the penthouse of our minds. And so, where do we live predominantly in our minds? Are we living in the basement or are we living in the penthouse? Because this is the place that we will be creating our experiences from. Either we're creating them from the basement or from the penthouse. So, if you remember last week, I quoted Ernest Holmes, who said life is either a blessing or a curse, according to what we make of it. And the Buddha, this is what the Buddha meant when he said that we are all a result of what we have thought. And that's what Jesus meant when he said, it is done unto you as you believe. And what Ernest Holmes meant when he said, change your thinking, change your life. So that's kind of the vein that we're moving in this morning. And it's more than just thinking, though. It is the sum total of our consciousness. The sum and what is our consciousness? You know, we use that word a lot, but it is everything about us. It is our beliefs, our attitudes, our actions, our values, our feelings, our emotions. It's all of it. That makes up our consciousness. And so whatever is in our consciousness is what we are experiencing. And so I'm quoting Ernest Holmes a lot this morning. Ernest Holmes, for those of you who don't know, is the founder of religious science. And in his book, Science of Mind, he writes, whatever we think, act, believe in, visualize, vision, imagine, read, and talk about, in fact, all process which affect or impress us at all are going into the subjective state of our thought. And whatever goes into the subjective state of our thought tends to return to us as some condition. And so we alone control our destiny, he writes. So whatever we're taking in, whatever we're thinking about predominantly or focusing on or allowing our attention to go to, that is what is filling up that subjective part of us. So what does the basement of consciousness then really symbolize? What are some, well, let's think. What are some basement qualities? Just think of a basement. And not the kind that have game rooms and really the movie theater kind, but just a regular basement. What are some qualities? Dark, cold, damp, oldies, clutter, musty,
Fear.
Cinder bluff.
fear, like that.
Cinder bluff.
Cinder block.
Hiding.
Fighting?
Hiding.
Hiding.
Eerie.
Yeah. What was that?
Eerie.
Oh, eerie. Okay, so that's kind of like what we think of the basements on a physical plane, but then in our consciousness, that we can translate that maybe to negative emotions, to things that dominate our awareness in a way that maybe we don't want them to fear, to the darkness, to that shadow side, the shadow side of who we are. So that could be the basement of our minds, You know, a place where we're in victimhood. And do we feel very blessed when we're hanging out in the basement? No. Well, I don't hang out in basements. So, what about some penthouse qualities? Think about a penthouse.
Open, airy, light.
Light and airy.
A view.
A
A
view.
great view.
Unlimited
Luxury.
luxury.
Luxury. Love that. Opulence, right? All of those uplifting kinds of words. So we want to reside in that penthouse then consciousness. And so some of those qualities would be that we are understanding ourselves as a spiritual beings, that we reside in the light, that we are living lives that are filled with spiritual qualities and feelings, and that we're awake to who we really and truly are. Who we really and truly are, which is we're individualizations, creations of the one life. That is the truth of who we are. So that penthouse is the place of light and opulence and luxury and joy. So we feel a little bit more blessed here, yes?
Yes.
So how do we, if we choose to move, and I think most of us do, move from the basement consciousness to the penthouse consciousness? How do we get from there to there?
Elevator.
Okay, Wayne Dyer once said, the elevator to success is closed today. You have to take the stairs one step at a time. Okay? So what are the steps in the stairway up from the basement to the penthouse? See, that's what we're going to discuss this morning. What are those steps up? Well, today we're going to take it in 3 flights. So we're going to take it by flight. The first flight of steps is resist not what is. It is what it is, right? You've heard us say that. It is what it is, okay? But we're sometimes in such resistance to what is, and what do? We create more, because what we resist persists. So we create more of what is. So I'm inviting you as our first flight of steps to accept what is. Neutralize it. It is what it is. It is. So accepting that. We accept that, and when we let go of resistance, we then find ourselves a little freer, a little more not so attached, because we're letting go of our attachment to what is. Say, okay, it is what it is. Now I make my choice. So we're releasing the attachment, and that begins the shift of moving us up out of the basement consciousness. And Ernest Holmes, this is what is meant by his statement from his book, Sermon by the Sea. Let us be a people who are for something and against nothing. You've heard, you might have heard him. I've heard that, and I love it. Against nothing and for everything. Let us be a people like that. And from this standpoint in creation, I'm really getting why we don't want to resist what is. Like I said, we'll just get more of the same thing if we keep focusing on this. And you see in your life, if the patterns just keep repeating themselves, take a look at what's going on in your life. And is it the same? Are the feelings, the emotions the same? It's time to step out, get up on a couple of those steps and start moving up. Do it differently. Do it differently. And so I want you to say after me, I accept what is for now.
I accept what is for now.
Say a little more.
I accept what is for now.
Okay, that's the first step, see? That's the first step to moving up that first flight of stairs. I accept what is for now. So these steps from the basement to the penthouse really are more like a pyramid rather than a staircase, because as we're taking them one step at a time, it is a foundation that we are building. And I know Reverend Jessica and I did the foundation workshop yesterday. I have to cavell. I don't even use that word. It just came out. No, it was so good. It was the 6-hour workshop we did here in this room yesterday. And what it is the foundation from which we build our spirituality, our teachings upon. If we don't have a strong foundation, it crumbles. A pyramid can't form. And if we don't have a strong foundation for our lives, it just doesn't hold. So we need to have that strong foundation before we go up the second flight of steps. So the second flight of steps is adopt the attitude, I love this, that the universe is conspiring for my good. Holmes writes about that. The universe is conspiring for my good. That's the truth. So let's say that.
The universe is conspiring for my good.
Don't you want it to?
Yeah.
Let's say it with feeling.
The universe is conspiring for my good.
And yours too.
That's how I used to make my kids read every birthday card, with feeling. So Ernest Holmes wrote about that, where he says, there is nothing in the universe that limits you, or that would or could desire to limit you. Okay, we're talking about this universal mind of the divine, of God, of spirit. There is nothing in the universe that withholds from you, because in so doing it would withhold from itself. You are some part of its purpose. Therefore, the spirit seeks, urges, pushes against you to fulfill itself. So when you get that, you've heard me talk about that divine pull, and I know that many of us have had this pull to do, that our soul's longing to do some great thing. That is spirit seeking to express in and through and as you. That's what that is your divinity, your divine self that seeks expression through you. So it does us well to listen and to follow that pull, that voice, that whatever that energy is. So moving up in penthouse consciousness then means that no matter what is going on around us, we continue to know that the universal good desires to be expressed as our individual good. So the universal good seeks to be expressed as our individualized good. And no matter what others say, no matter what others do, no matter what is going on, to stay focused and to know that. A man lived by the side of the road, and he sold hot dogs. He was hard of hearing, so he didn't listen to the radio. He couldn't see very well, so he didn't watch TV or read the newspapers. But he was so happy selling these really great hot dogs. He put up a sign on the highway telling people about these great hot dogs. And he stood by the side of the road and yelled out to people, you know, come and buy my great hot dogs. And so he increased his business, so much so that he had to enlarge his meat and his bun order, got a new big stove, and made that sign even bigger on that billboard, even bigger on the highway. And then one day his son came home from college, and he decided to help his father sell these hot dogs. And his well-meaning son said to him, Dad, haven't you heard about the recession? Haven't you heard that the economy is really bad and that the energy crisis is even worse? Whereupon the hot dog man thought, well, my son goes to college, he's a learned person, he listens to the radio, he reads the newspapers, so he took down his advertising signs and he no longer bothered to stand by the side of the road yelling about how great his hot dogs were, and his hot dog sales fell almost overnight. And then he said, you're right, son, he said to the boy. We certainly are in the middle of a very bad recession. So what I'm saying is, don't let the naysayers, because there's plenty of them, steer you, even though they might be very well-meaning, in a direction that doesn't serve your highest good. Remember that that is drawing you down into the basement because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. Here is a man just not taking in all that negativity, really, into his conscious, his subjective state, subconscious state, and doing fabulously. But when we let the naysayers tell us about how it shouldn't be done, it can't be done, and all these other kinds of messages, then we are going the opposite way. We're going down into the basement. So we're going upwards. We're taking those flights upwards. And so we want to move in the right direction, the direction that serves us. When things start changing for the better, though, sometimes we think it's too good to be true. we think, well, this really can't happen to me. We start to self-sabotage, no? Sometimes, some of us do, until we learn better. Sometimes we say, I'll jinx it if I think about how good everything is going. So we really don't know how to handle our good, or to even realize that we're so deserving of the good. We deserve it. The universe conspires to bring us our good. Accept it. The gift, remember, it's not given unless you accept it. Spirit can't give you its gift unless you take it. So say after me. Nothing is too good to last.
Nothing is too good to last.
Nothing is too wonderful to happen.
Nothing is too wonderful to happen.
And I deserve it.
And I deserve it.
That's the part I like. You deserve it. We all deserve to experience good. Darn it. We do. We really do. So then we move to our third flight of stairs. And this is choosing to have a spiritual experience with life. Choosing to have, so we're spiritual beings, having a human experience, choosing to have a spiritual experience with life. So it's a full circle. And we may need some help with this. Dear God, so far today I've done all right. I have not gossiped at all today. I have not lost my temper, been greedy, grumpy, or nasty, selfish, or overindulgent. I am thankful for that. But now I'm going to get out of bed in a moment, and I really am going to need your help. So it's a good way to start the day. Somebody shared with us how they meditate in bed and how it makes a great, even though you should do it sitting up, you can go back to sleep again. But it makes a big difference when we get centered in knowing that Spirit is all there is, that God is all there is, and is for us. The universe is conspiring for our good. It raises us up. It sets the tone for the day. And I do have another, I just think this is so really beautiful. It's from Ernest Holmes, and it really speaks to what we are going into this morning. He writes, we need spiritual experience, a first-hand knowledge of life and reality. There is no medium between God and us, nothing between life and living, between heaven and hell, but an idea. But an idea has no real value until it becomes an experience. In conversation, we assume knowledge of religion and philosophy, he writes. But how much do we really experience? We can know only that which we experience. All great religions have taught truth, but it means nothing to us unless it becomes our truth. We need spiritual experience. We shall never know peace until we embody it. We shall never know truth until we become truth. And we cannot know God unless we sense God within our own being. And he continues, the Spirit is ever giving, but we must take. So taking is good. What life does for us must be done through us. Spiritual experience is deep, is calm, and self-assertive. It is the result of actually realizing that presence which binds all together in one complete whole. Spiritual experience, he says, is a fact. It's a fact, experience. It springs from within, coming from that which never failing fountain of life, which quenches every thirst, whose source is in eternity, the wellspring of self-existence. It is a revelation of the self to the self, putting us back on the track of our own self-dependence on Spirit, our own at-one-ment with reality. So the words from today's beautiful inspirational reading that Bill read from the Science of Mind book really is great counsel for us to take in. So we begin to dwell upon the magnitude of this creative power. Incredible. How many stars are there in the galaxies? You know, how many fish are in the seas? How many grains of sand on the beach? It is limitless. It is infinite. And this is the God, the source of all good that we speak of when we speak of spirit, God, higher intelligence, higher power. This is what we're speaking of, this infinite, magnificent, lavish, abundant source of good. And it's ours to take when we are open to it. When we're open to it. So that's having the spiritual experience. Here we're having that spiritual experience. And it feels good. We're up in the penthouse of our consciousness. And it looks darn good from up here. So I want to conclude this talk with a parable about a farmer and his mule. Old mule. This mule fell into the farmer's well. And the farmer heard the mule braying, or whatever mules do when they're in distress. And after carefully assessing the whole situation, the farmer sympathized with the mule, but decided that neither the mule nor the well were really going to be worth his effort to save. So instead he called his neighbors together and told them what had happened. This mule fell down the well. And so he enlisted them to help him haul all of this dirt to bury the mule and cover up the well. Isn't that sad? Put the old mule out of his misery. Initially, the old mule was hysterical. But it's got a good end. But as the farmer and say that now. But as the farmer and his neighbors continued to shovel this dirt, it hit his back, and a thought struck him. It suddenly dawned on him, the mule, that every time a shovel, a load of dirt, fell on his back, he would get up and he would shake it off and step up. This he did, blow after blow. Shake it off and step up. Shake it off and step up. Shake it off and step up. He repeated this to encourage himself, no matter how painful the blows or distressing the situation seemed. The old mule fought his panic and just kept on shaking it off and stepping up. And it wasn't long before this old mule, battered and exhausted, he stepped out of the well, triumphantly over the wall of the well. And what seemed to him like it would bury him actually blessed him. It actually blessed him. All of this because of the manner in which he handled his adversity. And so this is a great parable and story for us to take into our lives. How are we handling our adversity? Okay, that's life. And life throws us these little curves, or these big curves. And for us to attain then that penthouse consciousness, to be in that penthouse, then we can shake it off and step up. We can shake it off and step up. That's what we can do. And that's a great affirmation. I'm going to shake this off and step, because what won't bury you will bless you. And this is all about blessings, all of April. So we are being blessed when we're able to shake it off and step up. So we have 3 flights of stairs. So the first flight is accepting what is, establishing that foundation, establishing it. This is what we must do first, all of the time. All of the time. Accept what is, make that the foundation, and move from there. Shake it off, step up. And next, by choosing to believe that the world is conspiring to bring us our good, this lifts us up out of that basement, and we look at life differently. We see the what is stuff differently. Finally, by making a conscious choice to have a spiritual experience with life, we reach the point of the pyramid. And that point of the pyramid couldn't be established unless it had a strong foundation. So it's so important for us to take the first flight. That first flight is always the most important. So deepen into that your spirituality, your relationship, your personal relationship with your higher power, with God, and make it solid, make it strong, make it strong. And so the view from on top of the pyramid is pretty spectacular. This is the penthouse consciousness. And we might even say that this is the point where we can view life as absolutely beautiful, complete, and feel totally blessed by our experience here. And so I invite all of you to take those steps with me, to walk up those flights of stairs and to reach that penthouse consciousness, because truly the view is much more blessed there and is much more beautiful there. Thank you.
Thank you.